Hello, hello. Thanks for joining me. If this is your first time, you are more than welcome, and if you've been here before, thank you so much and great to see you. My name is Paula McGurdy and I'm a visual artist, and I began these creative conversations really to give space to other females within Ireland in the creative realm, to get to know a bit more about their process, about why they do what they do, and to get to know a few more creatives as well. Today I speak to Niamh Hannaford, and I originally met Niamh when I did a course recently to just get me out of a creative rut, I guess, and Niamh's energy and creativity in the course was infectious, and it was brilliant, and it was just what I needed. Niamh herself uses her own work to explore her inner fears, and we talk quite a bit about this in our chat. She makes objects, she does self-portraiture paintings, and she also does written word as well. And we talk a lot about fear of failure, judgment, which all goes hand in hand if you are a creative as well. And it's a really honest and really insightful conversation, and I really enjoyed having a chat with Niamh again and speaking a bit about the course as well. So I hope you'll enjoy it, and let me know your thoughts. Hi Niamh, how are you?
Hi Paula, so lovely to see you.
Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. I've loved the ones you've done so far, so I'm really flattered. I have to say.
Thank you. Well, I'm thrilled that you said that you'd come on today, and I know that I've said, but just to give a bit of background, Niamh and I met when Niamh was facilitating an art course, and so she was doing like art education, and it was amazing, and I loved every minute of it. So yeah, we can talk a bit more about that in a little while, but that's kind of the gist of how we met, I guess, you know. So how are you doing anyway? How have things been?
I'm good. Yeah. I mean, it's such a weird time for everybody, you know, and like we're getting a little bit more used to doing these online things.
Yeah.
We rented a room in our house via Zoom pretty much, you know.
Really?
Yeah. And yeah, it's good. I think now that like we're coming out of this lockdown, of this period where I think for me, I almost felt like, oh, well, this is okay. My productivity doesn't have to be so high. And as a result of taking like that pressure off, I found it really hard to like respond to emails promptly. Whereas normally I'm really like, I'd get back to people within the day or 2 days, like absolute 3-day max. And now I've noticed like I've left emails for like a week, and I'm coming out of it's a bit weird, I have to say.
It's like a backlog of things, isn't there, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're trying to reschedule things, and everything. There's such a different normal, the new normal now. I went to my first exhibitions this week, though.
Oh, okay. Wow. How was that then?
I went to a ceramics exhibition in the Printworks in Dublin Castle, and that was amazing, Ceramics Ireland. And then I went to the Assemble show, Assemble,
Yeah.
in Atelier Mazer. That was great as well.
Yeah, brilliant. I've yet to make it in. I didn't get a ticket for the opening. I think it was pretty booked up pretty quickly, but yeah, I spoke to both Jane Fogarty and Alice Fitzgerald, who had works in that. So yeah, really looking forward to getting in there and having a look, which is great.
Hi.
Can you hear me again? We're going in and out.
Sorry.
I was just saying about
didn't get a ticket and then it kind of went out.
Yeah, the assembly. Yeah. Anyway, I'll make it in at some stage.
It'll fill together. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess I generally ask people at the beginning kind of a bit about their background, how they got into art. And for me, I'm very curious about the beginnings of how people, I suppose for people who aren't, well, I think everybody's creative, but for people who haven't tapped into that, I think it's interesting for those to figure out how do people get into it in the first place. So can you tell us a bit about like the background, how you got in?
So I kind of always knew I wanted to do something in the arts. Like when I was a kid. I don't think my parents didn't put too much pressure on like what you're going to be when you grow up, what you're going to do.
Yeah.
And I think I always just kind of assumed, oh yeah, like I'll be an artist, I'll be a performer of some sort, like something, you know. I come from, though I have like some cousins and stuff who are artists now, but the older generation, like my aunties and stuff, there isn't any artists, but everyone's like super funny, which I think is creative. Like they're performers that, you know, hairdressers, chefs, furniture makers, this kind of like, we have lots of creative people in our family. And my mom is very creative always. She loved, like, we moved around a lot as a kid when I was younger. And so she was always like interior decorating houses. They're always amazing.
Which is so creative. Yes.
Yeah, she does dressage as well, which is like
wow.
thing. So yeah, I think I got my creative energy from them. And then like in school wasn't my forte. But my mom, it's funny, I was chatting to her on the phone last night. I don't know why we were talking about study. Oh, one of my friends is doing her exams. And I was saying, oh, I always struggled so hard to study. And she like just happened to say, well, not if it was anything to do with art, you know? So if it was anything, like I did a portfolio course and I would be 12 hours a day. Like, you know, I didn't have a problem working hard. My focus maybe was lent only in creative pursuits.
Yeah. And then did you go on to art college then after that? And
well, I did. I went to NCAD. So when I went, it was like 10 years ago. So I know that the way the layout has changed now, but you did the core year and then you went and did your own separate things. And the things that I always wanted to do was either painting or fashion. But I didn't get into either of those. And I ended up in metalwork, which I liked and I didn't like, if I'm to be perfectly honest. Like I felt like I always struggled to fit in, to find my voice, I kind of ended up making jewelry and I didn't really feel massively passionate about it. But then I have to say I worked as a jeweler for years after college. So
did you? Okay.
You know? So there's this, so like so my degree is in design. So I think I carry quite a large chip on my shoulder for having never studied art.
So did you you didn't go into fine art then? No. Okay. Because I don't really know how NCAD like works, and you know the way you like you studied is like, you think that that's the way for everything, but exactly. I don't really know how it works in NCAD.
Well, when I was there, it was like a 4-year course, and the first year was called core year, and you tried a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
And then, but like, to be honest about college, like I'd love to go back to college now, but I think I was too young. I was really, really shy. I was really, really insecure. I didn't know who the hell I was. And then I'm meant to have this like visual language and be able to stand behind and defend it, which was too much for me. Some 18-year-olds are brilliant at it. I wasn't.
Yeah, I know. It's and I think particularly in the arts, when you do, as you say, you have to defend your work, and you do, and particularly in groups and with your tutors and with other peers as well. And it can be really, really intimidating. And if you're not in the mental space to be able to do that for yourself personally, let alone your own work, then it's another step up, isn't it?
So much to try and fit like what I thought people, like my tutors and stuff, wanted me to do. And and as a result, I never really felt like a connection with it. But I will say I love the techniques of metalworking. Like I love working with silver. I do make some jewelry like myself now sometimes. So it's not like I hated the course. I think it was just I wasn't strong enough or sure enough about myself. So I'd love to go back and do a master's some days. I'm always flipping between like, I'll go and do a master's, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, wow. But I can see one of your beautiful paintings in the background there as well, Niamh. So your paintings are just gorgeous. I mean, the detail on them is amazing. And I know that you do a lot of self-portraits. Just take it. Just be like, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
I know that you do a lot of self-portraits, and the way you paint the skin, your skin, is it just looks like porcelain, or it's so beautiful. So you work in acrylics, would that be right?
I work in acrylics, and then mainly the background is spray painted, but it depends. So like this is like 3 layers of spray paint. And some of them I leave blank, or otherwise they're spray painted, which I think gives like a lot of people ask me if my work is prints, if they're prints, because like I think the comparison, like I paint quite flat. Like my acrylics really, like they soak into the, I put so much water into them, they might as well be water. I always joke that like I couldn't.
They look like watercolors.
Yeah. Like I couldn't make a mistake in a painting with the acrylic side, because everything is so watered and washes. It's just layers and layers and layers. That if I put a layer on, I'm like, oh, that color is not really that great. Like I don't really like that there. I just like wash it off pretty much and let it go again, you know?
Yeah. Wow, and how do you do the spray paint? I'm intrigued by how does that work then?
So with this one here, so I do the painting first, and then I mask it off with like paper and masking tape, and I use a bit of that the resistor, you know, the for watercolors, the like the plastic you can put. You can't leave that on too long. So for this one I used pretty much just that. So I masked it off with paper and masking tape, and then I spray with the lightest color, and then I put the plastic paint on, and I did another coat and then plastic paint. It was so much fun to pick off.
Oh God, I said so. I mean,
my God, like I couldn't help.
But it doesn't.
I think I was like 10 hours, and I was like, no, I'm fine. Don't talk to me. I don't need to eat. I don't need anything. Right? I'm totally satisfied.
And it doesn't damage the paper then, Niamh. No, it's like know the way.
So if you do it on top of the spray paint, it's fine. If you do it, so I had another piece where sometimes I love to draw the like flicky bits of your hair. But then when you're trying to mask them off, they're very difficult to like get it done neatly. And I think that's something that has come from my like metalworking background, is like technique and like things looking clean. And I'm very into the finish on things. I love things to have like a high finish. So like, for example, I painted years ago, I painted a picture of a chair, and I like spent so long on it, and then halfway through I spilt my tea on it, and everyone was like, oh, it's fine, you can just wash your tea, blah blah. And I was like, no, again for no reason. Oh,
I saw one of the mattresses that you painted as well many years ago. I love that.
Thanks. I love that too. I loved that for all this time. I did that actually when I was in college, and I came back from my Easter break, and I was so chuffed, because I always worked on my holidays and things like this, but it was never the right kind of work, if you know what I mean. So like my ability to notebook is very poor. So I came back and showed them, and they were just like, well, what is this? I was like, this is art. It's beautiful, right? But I really love it.
I love it. I think it's gorgeous, you know.
And it was actually like, I mean, now we know we should change our mattresses more often, but we had that mattress in my family for like 20 years or something.
Yeah, well now it's a piece of artwork.
We just don't know where to put it.
So can you tell us a bit about your kind of art process? How do you have like a ritual? How do you start? Do you work every day on your art? How does that work for you? I know you said about sketchbooks as well, but
like I think it depends what work I'm doing and how I'm doing it. I mean, I really try to clarify my work as work now. You know, if I'm talking to somebody, I say I'm in work, but it's not. It's because like for yourself, I feel like I need to make that separation, just so you have time to not work, because you're so inclined to think about art. Like I would say, I think about art 97% of my day.
Yes.
But not productively. I mean, I was talking to someone earlier, and I was saying I think I work really, really hard, but I don't think I work very smart. I feel like, so yeah, back to your question, sorry. For my process is more that I like ruminate on something in my head. So I would say like I'm a confessional artist. Like all my work comes from me like showing myself or things that are going on in my life, in the hope that like other people can find common ground with these kind of experiences. And like, I think there's so many platforms and stuff that show us how amazing everybody is. So sometimes it's nice and you're like, oh, you're actually struggling as well. So that's kind of what the jam of my whole work would be about, like shared experience of joy, sadness, anything like this. And I think I just, like, I'll ruminate on a subject a lot. I write poems as well. So a lot of my notebooks would be written, like, so this would be an example of my notebook. It's just all pretty much like writing small little sketches, doodles here, there, everywhere on, you know, receipts. Like, I actually bought these, you know, like the kids, and I'm very lucky with these now. They've been doing and yeah, so I'll be ruminating on a subject matter, and then generally the paintings kind of, the ideas kind of just come to me in a moment after thinking about this subject matter for a long time. So this painting, it, like, I was thinking about like struggling with kind of the promotion of yourself, like constantly having to put yourself out there. Like, I think I've mentioned the rejection, the level of rejection you feel as an artist. And like a lot of people who are artists are like overthinkers, very sensitive, this kind of stuff. So like, it really takes a toll on you.
I think so many artists are empaths as well. So you kind of take on board whatever is being said to you on you, and it's kind of like, and you need to
put yourself out there in so many respects. Like, it's not only just yourself, but it's like what you've created. You know, it's the same for like a chef. If someone like cooked me a meal and then I was like, take it or leave it. Like, I'm sure he'd be like, oh, it's fine. Like, you know?
I know. I spent hours slaving over this, or, you know, I came up with that concept and now it hasn't gone down too well. And it's the same, you're right. It's the exact same for artists. And I think the rejection just goes hand in hand. And I don't think it necessarily gets any easier.
Yeah. You can get more used to it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm hoping you do.
Or maybe that's when all of the yeses start.
Yeah, that's suddenly the yeses. I won't be able to like breathe.
But it is, it's vulnerability, isn't it? So
vulnerability and like sharing of experience and like things for me that, you know, like if I've ever had exhibitions and some of my work has been there and people have come up to me afterwards and then they've told me a story about something like this, or they've said, oh wow, this makes me think this way, like that's super happy for me. I'm really, really delighted. And yeah, so mainly the paintings come fully formed and then like I paint them, and as I paint them, things change. So for example, what I actually wanted to do the grass, how I wanted to do the grass in the background of this originally was much more graphic, like those kind of cartoon like blades of grass and stuff. And I wasn't able to do it the way I wanted to do it. And I'm absolutely delighted because I think it would have looked enough. So things change through the process of making, but small amounts, you know?
Yeah.
And then I try to write a poem or something that goes with it. I really like object making as well. So now I'm trying to explore that. I did some objects like years ago, kind of before I started painting, like after I came out of college, like interactive on jewelry, but not really wearable jewelry, you know? So I'm trying to incorporate like a more cohesive practice now that incorporates all sides of things that I enjoy.
Okay. I kind of see you as quite sculptural. I don't know why. Maybe that's because, so as I said, for those listening, the course that I did with yourself, there was a lot of I loved it because it was very creative and very playful, which is just really in my zone. When I do something like that, it kind of, I guess the reason why I did the course with yourself, Niamh, was just kind of just take me out of the comfort zone of what I've been doing over and over and over again. And so I think when I met you, I was really thinking of you as like that you make sculptural forms of some sort, because a lot of the work that we ended up doing was like to do with that, or maybe that's what I was ended up doing.
No, you're bang on. Like, I love making things. Like, making things I absolutely adore it. And I don't know why, because I do, like, I wouldn't class myself as, I mean, I don't care if people call me a painter or not. Like, I don't care what people call me. But technically, I wouldn't really class myself as a painter, like, because I do see so many facets to my practice. But I also think I'm very, a very young artist. Like I've been out of like I'm not in my age. Like, I've been out of college 10 years, but I really did struggle to like find my voice, to find like confidence to make work, confidence to then try and show work, and what kind of work I wanted to make. I was working full time at parts, and then I was coming home and I would just go to my studio and I wouldn't like make anything, you know, but I would always try and still go. So I think only in the last like 4 years, maybe three or 4 years, have I like really kind of honed. So I feel like it's still going in. I'm still figuring it out. But yeah, I would see like I love sculptural work, particularly when I go to exhibitions. I love making with my hands. I'm currently trying to make a
show us, yeah.
So you see this here? This is like a old yoga ball. I'm trying to make a sculpture now to go with this painting. So
wow,
it's gonna have like air flowing up through the ball, and then the same tissue paper that's on my nipples. You'll put it's totally it's awful for Corona, but I'm just going to do it anyway. Put your face into it, and like air.
Like don't go near it. Yeah,
yeah, I know. But I like this idea, so I've always I just said, oh, F it, just go, do it.
Yeah, do what's in your head, definitely. Yeah. You know? So, oh wow, that's brilliant. So where do you get all your inspiration? Where does that come from? And
I would say so. I also love going to workshops, I have to say, and things like this, like for much of the same reasons why you said when you came to doing the workshops with me, you enjoyed them, because I think it's really important, like, to explore other ways of working so that you don't get just stuck in doing the same thing over and over and over. And like my practice is so all over the place. I think sometimes it's nice to go to other workshops because it shows you kind of what you're thinking in someone else's way, if you know what I mean. So I love going to workshops. Also, I would say just life. Like a lot of my projects come from the things I write. So I would write things about my general day-to-day experience of life. I also am inspired. I do love going to exhibitions. I try quite hard to see a lot of art. But it's difficult, like, you know, everyone's really busy, and I mean, it's pre-corona, and now I'm delighted to kind of going to some exhibitions again. But so I think I'm influenced by other people's work as well, what I see around Dublin, and yeah, just life in general, I think is generally my inspiration, and trying to progress as a person. Like a lot of my work is about like personal progression and trying to document that progression. Through my work and through my paintings.
Is there any artists that you feel like a deep connection with, that you or visual creatives that resonate with you, and that?
Do you know what? I'm going to do this awful thing now where I get really nervous because I try to remember everyone's name.
And you're like, I don't know any artist's name.
No, I do. Like, you know, Jane. Jane, who did the last one with. I love Jane's work. Absolutely love her work. I think it's just so colourful. I think anything that's unapologetically colourful. I like really, really colourful work. And I also like work that is like, I think this comes from like me not have gone to art college. I like work that is easily accessible, but I also like work on the opposite end of the scale where you're like, wow, this could be about anything to me. You know, like I have unless I read the blurb, like I'm not going to know what this work is about, what the artist was trying to portray, but it's therefore like I can put my own story on it, and that kind of thing. Yeah, but like I think lots of artists, to be honest, lots of like contemporary Dublin artists who are around at the minute, you go see their work. I do feel, I think, oh God, I can actually see myself gone red because I never studied art. I find it quite hard to talk about other people's work because I worry that I'd like say something really wrong or like miss the point entirely. And
but I think that's a whole thing though as well, isn't it? If you there's a whole thing within the artist realm of whether you've gone to art college or you've done absolutely nothing and you've come to art much later on in life and you're self-taught. There's always that thing of, do I feel good enough in order to be in this realm or not?
exactly.
But what I say to people is that even if you've gone to art college, artists feel that anyway. I came out of art college and it was probably 4 or 5 years before I was even able to call myself an artist, you know.
Exactly.
So it's very
I think
personal.
that's a big thing when you start calling yourself an artist.
Yeah.
You know? Like I remember like coming out of art.
And then you just got to fucking own it then.
Yes, exactly. But it's really like to be able to stand there with it. Because I remember when I was working, so last year, 2019, I actually set myself up as like a sole trader. So my full-time employments came from the arts. And it's like from facilitating classes or selling paintings, this kind of thing. But before that, I worked part-time as a jeweler. And like when I met people, I really, even though like I would want to, my profession that I would want to discuss would be art. And like, but I would feel, I'd be like, oh, I'm an artist, but I pay my bills as a jeweler. And then, you know, I would really struggle to be able to say, oh, I'm an artist and just leave it at that. Just like I'm an artist, full stop. Like I would always feel like I needed to quantify it or something.
Explain it somehow.
Yeah. And now I don't. Now I'm just an artist.
Yeah, which I think lots of people do. There's almost like that apology about it. Well, I'm an artist, but it doesn't pay my bills, so therefore I'm not really an artist. Or
exactly.
You know.
And I think there's a lot of like, people mean absolutely no harm about it. Like they don't mean, like they don't realize that like, oh, I'm actually at home really struggling, like really working hard and struggling to like get anywhere or whatever. And then you meet people like, I'm an artist, and they're like, oh, it means you just sit around doing nothing. You're like, no, it doesn't. No, it doesn't.
I think they're the people who don't really have a concept of maybe the creativity, the process or anything like that, you know. And also they're the people who's, you know, their opinion doesn't matter. I've just finished a book called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, and it's really
very good.
Changed my mindset about so many things, and
I need
about the whole thing about fear of what people think of you, and really it doesn't. Well,
this is it, like, because I think that's something that influences people. Well, it influences me so much, like the fear of judgment, the fear of what people think. And I think that's why I started drawing pictures of myself, because like when I made work when I first came out of college, like I was in an exhibition with a ring that I had made in the north, and like I got my mom. Like my mom was so supportive to drive me to Belfast. We went to the exhibition. I was so ashamed and so embarrassed. I didn't tell anyone who worked in the gallery, oh, I'm Niamh, that's my work, you know, and then we left. And I was just really, really like, I'm an emotional girl. So I was like really nervous, really crying, like blah, blah. And then after a couple of years, I was like, you really need, like, if you're going to do this and like, you're going to continue to try and be an artist, practice, blah, blah, blah. You need to kind of stand behind your work. And I think that's when I started doing the self-portraits, because there's no way like I could be there and not be recognized.
No
like, people do recognize me for my work, you know? So like if I'm in the gallery, people generally recognize me. So that's, I don't know if it's like just want to whip myself or something, you know, make it harder. But that's why I started doing the self-portraits. And it made a big difference to like, the validation of myself and being like, yeah, no, you are an artist. This is what you do.
Wow. Okay. Well, I would definitely recommend that book. It was just, I feel like it was life-changing for me in many ways, you know, just the whole rethinking how you think, but also how you think about what other people think about you. And for the most part, it's make any difference, really, you know. I think you've got to do
this is it, because it's all about your own experience, and like you're the only one who's going to experience your life, and as long as you're not hurting anyone else, like what difference does it make if you want to wear that weird top or whatever?
Exactly. Yeah.
But it's so hard, like it takes so long to get to that point, I think.
I've told my husband Rolly, over the years, I'm just going to start getting more and more eccentric as time goes by, because I'm just going to be like, I don't really care. I don't care what anybody thinks.
Yeah, this is what I think, though. It's great. My friends have actually often sent me little clips of, you know, those people who dress all in one color or something by the time they're old, and they're like, this is going to be you. I was like, I'm not far off it, lads.
Beginning, yeah. So tell us a bit about, you mentioned there that you started as a sole trader. How did that all begin, and how did that start? When did you, so do you still you don't work part-time as a jeweler now?
No,
back to, are you a part-time jeweler? I don't know.
I don't.
But so when did you start doing that?
So when I got, when I was working as a jeweler, I knew I wanted to like move my career to be full-time in the arts, like in the facilitation or things like this. So I got a job in a mental health centre called Gateway in Rathmines, which is amazing. So I teach an art class there, and I did that for about a year, and then I went to the interview for the freelance in Rural Red.
Yes, and then I did the course with yourself. Yeah,
exactly. So once I got that, I quit my job pretty much, and I set myself up as a sole trader, and I tried to keep to doing like somewhere between 2 and 4 classes a week, just to tick myself over so that I had enough time for my studio. And to try and work like that. And I think the things that I find the most difficult about making like the career, the job side of it, is the output of costs to start with before you start getting in is quite high. So obviously you get paid for your classes, which is great, but like buying paper, studio rent, like to be able to get materials to try and make it work, and to get materials to experiment where you're able to kind of mess around and it doesn't really matter if it works or it doesn't work.
I know. I think being precious about thing and going, oh, like for instance, I bought this and it cost me such and such, so I need to be
really careful with it.
Exactly. Yeah, really careful. And then I think you don't reach your potential within your art if you're being too precious and careful about it. It doesn't allow you to experiment to your full.
And this is what I think, like in my practice, I have been missing a little bit, is that kind of experimentation. So hence the ball of paper mache and like on the floor. Yeah. I'm trying to experiment a little bit more. And I'm actually starting a residency soon in September.
Oh, wow. Brilliant. Yeah. Whereabouts is that then?
It's in Dundalk in Creative Spark with my friend Tara Carroll. So she's a performance artist. I actually did one of her workshops, which really inspired me last year to like engage and explore performance work. So I'm really excited to go down and do that. And we have like a weekend thing coming up in the Mart where it's going to be like my first performance art, I suppose. Yeah.
Wow. Well, that's really putting yourself out there then, isn't it? Like,
yeah. And I'm really excited. It's my first residency. So I'm stoked to go and have that time to, you know, just experiment. And there's not a show at the end. We have to give Creative Spark a piece of work, but that kind of takes a lot of pressure off about having to actually come out and say, well, I've made A, B, and C, and D. You know, I can come out and say, I've learned A, B, and C, and D. And that's
perfect. And how long did you say that was for, Niamh? How long?
That's for 2 months.
2 months. Oh, that'd be brilliant.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I'm going to have to come back and up, though, to do some classes, which I'm okay with. Like, at first, I was planning on taking the time off, but just with everything that's happened, it's not an option. But that's okay. I got a car last year. So.
Oh, yeah. Great. Wow, that's brilliant. How exciting. Because I think, well, I need to apply for residency, which is on my list of things to do. But I can imagine it is an amazing time just to be able to kind of just let loose and not be confined by you're in a different space, a different environment, which I think can lead to
exactly
things in a different perspective and leads to your creativity going on a different path, and just being open, I guess, to possibilities.
I know, I'm so excited because I'm a real, you can probably get the gist from my little home studio here, I'm quite a clutter. Like I love objects. I love finding stuff on the street and bringing it home. I love all this kind of stuff.
Sherlock.
So, yeah. So my studio is just like jam filled with everything. So I'm really looking forward to going to a different space, and I'm going to get some materials delivered down there, and I'm going to bring my paints, and that's it.
Wow.
And so I'll be able to go down with a completely blank slate and just experiment and see what happens, which I'm really excited for.
Yeah, amazing. And you said you're also keeping your classes on then. How has that been then in terms
So
of...
I've done one of my classes.
Are you still doing them in Rua Red then? Or
No, I'm not doing them in Rua Red.
Okay,
I'm just doing them in Gateway. So I sent, I did video classes for like the whole of quarantine, which was great because I learned how to do a video class. I'm not very technical. So I learned how to make a little video, which I'd never learned before. And we just started back doing sketching classes in the park. So we've done 3 of them, and it's just all socially distanced and stuff. So we'll see what happens when the weather gets a bit bad, when it starts raining and a bit cold. Maybe we'll go back to being fully video. But right now I'm enjoying seeing people in real life. And
that's great.
Yeah, it's great.
Brilliant. Wow. So how can I ask you, in terms of being a creative, what are the things that you find the most challenging about that as a or as
for
a
me,
personal?
The rejection, like being okay with getting rejected all the time, which is fine. It's absolutely part of it. And 90% of the time I'm fine with it. But if too much comes at once, you find yourself at a little bit of a low. And finding that balance between, I don't think I've really found the balance between doing applications, applying for things, putting yourself out there, and spending time in the studio. I think sometimes I go a little bit too far on applying for too much, and just spending the time in the studio. But it's difficult as well, I find, to make work when you don't have anywhere to show it. So there's a piece of work that I've been trying to make for like a year, but it's an 8-foot painting. Like it's fully life size of me. And not to like beat my own horn, but I think it's going to be beautiful. But it's such a large undertaking. I've already prepped the board, so it's like sitting there in my studio, like ready to go. But to be able to sometimes to undertake things where you, like, obviously it's too big to go into any kind of a group show. Like you wouldn't really get a painting that size into a group show. So like finding the validation to keep working, I think, is something that I struggle with a little bit. And yeah, I'm very like pew, 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 pew. So all over the place. So I struggle to finish projects. So sometimes I'll like make some jewelry or something, and then like my housemate said to me, she was like, I didn't even know you made jewelry. I've never seen you like promote it on your Instagram or anything. And I was like, yeah, I hate it. So I just, so I think I find like the being your like manager and your advertiser and the person who finds the opportunities and the person who creates the work, I find, because you have to be everything, I find that hard.
Yeah, the balance of it. And that comes back to that whole thing of that person saying to you, which, I mean, I'd say many artists have had that of, oh, you just sit around and make art the whole time. And I think people don't realize that it's multi
layered.
Layers, that's a good word, yes. It's multi-layered, and so the roles that you have to take on board are not just the making, it's often everything else.
Exactly. And I think trying to, like what we were saying earlier about not being too self-critical, like I think I'm naturally quite self-critical. I had a friend tell me before, oh yeah, but I'm not as hard on myself as you are. And like I was just like, wow, like I need to chill out on myself. So I think that balance between being able to like look at a painting you've done, or for me, like when I look at a painting I've done and I'm able to say, oh, I don't like this. I'm looking forward to doing my next painting so I can do this better. But still being able to say, well done, like you did this.
Yeah. But also being able to say, I love that, like that's I'm really proud of that, and that's okay. And I think there's also that thing in art that almost that you can't say that it's seen as like an ego boost or something. And I just go, No, if you're going to make something, you should be
You might as
making
well
things
be
that
proud of
you're,
it.
yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
And you feel like it's valid and it's worthwhile. And sure, why would anybody want your work if you're just going to be like, oh no, I don't think it's that
But
good,
this is what I said. Like I started really trying to believe in myself, you know, and my abilities and my like talent and all this kind of stuff. Because, you know, you're basically trying to sell your like, you know, I want people to buy my work because they obviously like my work as well. But I want people who buy my work, like it's like an investment in me as an artist, and that maybe that work will be worth more one day, like an investment piece for them as well. Like I don't shy away from like that side. I see when people buy my work, they're investing in me as an artist. And they're investing in my like practice, they're investing in the potential of me growing. And like it's I'm like so embarrassed saying this out loud on a podcast, but I'm gonna do it. Like if I didn't think I was gonna succeed, I wouldn't still be doing it. And you have to, at a certain age, say, well, I think I'm going to be successful because I wouldn't still be doing it. And like, I have quite high aspirations for my career, you know, even though I'm like, feel I'm blooming a little late in life, I still do. And like, you know, whenever I go to like larger shows abroad or whatever, like retrospectives, something I always do, which is so silly, but I check the ages and I go and I look and I'm like, all right, well, she was 47 when the first work in the retrospective was made. So like, don't be so hard on yourself. You're still growing, you're still learning. It doesn't matter that you didn't come out of college like fully formed in this like amazing artist person, you know?
I think that's the beauty with art though, isn't it? Like that it takes a lifetime. And as you said, like I love that thing of people coming to it later. One of my big artist inspirations would be Louise Bourgeois, and I love her for basically the work that she's done, because I love her use of cloth and clothing and material and the representation of what that means. But I also, the fact that I think she was about 65 when she had her first show.
This is it.
A mother, she was working away in the background, but nothing really happened for her until much later on in life. And she lived to be like in her 90s. I think she was 95. And she had a massive career thereafter, you know, but she was still making work much later in life. And I think, like, it's not like the beauty industry. Like, we can make work.
I always find that really inspiring as well. I'm like, oh, well, you know, you guys might retire at 60 because, like, you know, we are naturally comparative. Like, you compare yourself to other people who are in different careers, and you think, wow. Like, sometimes I have had that thought, oh, I wish I didn't want to be an artist, because I do find it like a bit of a struggle, you know, sometimes. But the benefits of it are unreal as well. And I think because we all judge ourselves on such a linear like time pattern of like, oh, I'm not in a position to like, I mean, I just got my first car and it's like a 2005, you know, it was the oldest I could get insured on and this kind of thing. But like, I'm going to be working hopefully until I'm 95 or whatever, you know, age I pass away. Like the career trajectories don't have to be the same, and they can go up and then they can go down for 7 years, 8 years. You might not make any work, and then you can come blossoming back. It's fine.
Yeah, I know. So on that point, what if somebody is looking to get into creativity or creating, which I think is in everybody, but some of us are a little bit more afraid to dabble in that than others. What advice would you give to somebody wanting to start off? Either, doesn't have to be painting, but something creative.
Just your creative confidence. I think like even it's knocked at such a young age, like all the time. You know, I remember when I was a kid, I used to write loads of poems, and I wrote a poem and I used I used the planet Uranus in it. And like people laughed at me because it sounds like Uranus, you know? I mean, I stopped writing poems for years, you know? Like it just, you get, and I think I've listened to a couple of talks, and I think it can happen like at 12 and stuff, 13, like people can kind of, like everyone's creative. Everyone as a kid is creative. And it just takes that one teacher or one person to say, oh, it's a weird dog, You just think, oh, I can't draw. That's that.
Yeah.
So
Or it doesn't look like a dog, or that doesn't look like a flower, or, you know.
Yes, exactly.
Like, you know.
So I think for me, the main thing I would say is to like try and not be self-critical of yourself. Produce work, and that's okay. Try and learn from everything you do. Like, I always try and say to myself, I said it already, but like I always try when I've finished a piece of work to look at it, look at what I'm looking forward to doing better next time, or looking forward to improving, but then also look for what I really like and what worked really well. So to just try and build yourself up constantly.
Yeah.
You're great. Hoorah. Art's for everyone.
Isn't it Picasso who said everybody's born an artist? The problem is how to remain an artist as you grow older, or something along those.
Exactly like.
But anyway,
and I think it can be seen sometimes as this thing that you're either like innately like talented, like you're just a talent and you're just a talented artist. And like I wouldn't say I'm like a talent. I like work really hard, like, you know, and that's that. Like I worked hard to practice drawing. Like I spent a time and I said, I'm going to learn how to draw in the next 2 years. And I spent 2 years learning how to draw, you know, like I've always been like, I've always drawn my whole life. But when I went to art college, as a lot of people do, I, you know, stopped draw. I was definitely a better drawer before I started art college than when I finished.
Interesting, isn't it? Yeah. I think definitely the drawing thing, it's a skill, and people just say, oh my goodness, I wish I could. I can't draw a stick man or whatever, you know. And I just go, well, it's like anything. It's like learning how to swim, or riding a bike, or knitting a jumper, or whatever. You're training your eye to see. It's about seeing. It's about a visual language that you're seeing and then putting it on. It's the mind.
And I absolutely love blind contour drawings. Like if anyone's starting, blind contour drawings of organic things, flowers and fruit. Your happy days.
I always think drawings look so beautiful when people do those, you know.
Oh, me too. I absolutely love them. Absolutely love them. I think that's kind of the only way I like sketch, really, to be honest. Is like, or like when I say blind contour, they might not be fully blind. I might look down, but that's kind of only really how I sketch, that kind of like rough style. I don't like, I wouldn't sit down and do a sketch like a really fully formed sketch, you know. I always call them doodles, and then I'll sit down and say, okay, this is now I'm going to do my painting. And like my style of drawing for the larger works is much more mechanical. Everything's really measured. Like I'm such a grid. Like,
are you? Grizz. Yeah. It works.
This is actually the first painting I did drawing from my computer. So for my other paintings, my friend Gavin Lane, who's Orange Owl, who's an incredible photographer and artist, but I've been really lucky that he has taken the like preliminary shots that I've worked from. So they've all been like unbelievable. And then this one was the first one that I did from like just an average photo. Like the photo was fine, but it wasn't like amazing, you know. And I worked on my computer. So that was a challenge over quarantine that I was like, yay.
Tick, that's done.
Yes, I learned that. Because it costs, and I would always be like getting the photo done and then going and printing it, and like all of that printing costs so much money. And now I'm like, great, there's like £100 I can just keep in my grocery pocket. Like
other things or other art material. Definitely.
Yes, exactly.
So if you're feeling stuck then, Niamh, what are the things that is there anything that you do like in terms to get you out of any kind of creative rush?
I like walking and thinking on things. Or I do a lot of thinking when I'm cycling or things like this. I think when you're in a creative rut, you just need to like, the hardest thing is to just say, okay, like that's fine. You know, my brain isn't working this well. I do try to do like admin stuff if I'm not feeling so creative, but it's like a tightrope because you can also get sucked into that side of it as well, you know, and then you're like, oh, I need to go to the other side. But yeah, I think if I'm like creatively in a rut, I try to like walk, and I really, I write what I'm feeling, what I'm thinking. I kind of do that in free writing. whatever, whereas you just like write, like have a conscious stream of just write. And
it's
then
not hard to do then. I don't think I've ever really, I mean, I've kept diaries in the past and stuff, but I feel like that's on the next level, that you're not judging yourself based on what you're actually writing. It's just,
you just go for it. And like there would just be sentences here and there, and then none of it would really make sense. And then I'd kind of look back over it and I'd be like, oh yeah, this is what's taking up space in my mind at the minute. Let's make work about that. So that's kind of how I get out of my creative rut. But I also love to walk and like listen, like talk into, God, it sounds so mental. I love to talk to myself, but I talk into my microphone and I can listen to that later.
I think that's perfect. Because it's another way of the stream of consciousness of like, instead of writing, it's verbalizing.
Exactly. I think when I'm in a rut, I do that. I try and find ways to listen to what is actually happening in my head. And then that helps me to be able to be like, oh, this is what I want to make work about. Oh, okay, I see. So like this work is called What Folly This, and it's about like, so I had said, oh, I'm not applying for anything else anymore. This is it. I'm not applying for stuff. I'm just going to make work now. I'm not.
Was that about the rejection then, Niamh? Or
was kind of like, what do you want from me? Like, what is this? What you want from me? Just to be like outrageous, or like what is it that is wanted from me? And like, I don't think I could talk about it properly because I mean, I only made it in quarantine. So I think for me, a lot of times it takes a while for like the work to sit with me. And then sometimes I change the names of it loads. It's like, I'm like, oh no, it's not called that anymore. But yeah, someone suggested I apply for something. And I was really like, oh, I'm done with applying for stuff. But then I was like, okay, no, one last rodeo. So, and the work was specifically made for that. And it was like, to be like, what is it what is the thing that I'm meant to be doing,
I think you just need to keep on applying.
Yeah, keep on tracking.
Something, the right thing will come up for you, I think, really,
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely.
And but like, I think this is it. Like, I mean, like I was saying, everyone goes in these kind of like rounds. So I hope I haven't come off as super negative because I just happen to be one of those like.
I think this is just the reality of it, though, and I think that's really interesting for a lot of other creatives and people to hear that it's not just all, oh yeah, I made this and it's amazing and I applied to something and I got it, and to realize there's so much more that goes.
I think it's all because I spent 2019 particularly doing a lot of applications, and I actually did, like me and my friend Tara, so we got the residency in Creative Spark, and then we actually got a show in Palace Projects as well together.
Oh, brilliant.
So I'm super excited about that. But then because of COVID, like everything got postponed and like put back, and then you're trying to reschedule, and you're like, oh, is the work going to be the same now because we're in a different time, and is it going to respond and hit the same way, and blah blah blah. So you get I think that's what kind of also put me into this like low. And then I was at an exhibition the other day, and it was it was so good. Someone said this to me. He was like, oh yeah, but look, you're in that low, so you know that soon you're going to start climbing up that thing where your head is just going ding 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 ding, and you're like, yes, I love being an artist.
Yeah,
fun.
Exactly. So with the lows, that the highs are coming. That was such a good way of looking at it, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. It really was. And sometimes it takes other people to say that to you and be like, no, you love your job.
Like, it's amazing. You'll come back around again,
Yeah. And it's nice to hear that, like, you do the classes and like you enjoyed them, because I do get quite good feedback from my classes and I love teaching them or like facilitating them. I absolutely love it.
Listen, Niamh, I would recommend anybody doing classes with you. Your energy in the class is just amazing. I loved it. And I knew when I walked in, I was like, I'm in the right place here. And I just love the experimentation and all that kind of stuff. I did it for those listening, I did it in Rua Red, which is a contemporary gallery space, and in Dublin, and it was just brilliant, Niamh. It was kind of like
I get so much from them because I get to meet, like yourself, I get to meet so many amazing artists, and I get to see the work that they're doing, which also inspires me, I think connection with people, because it's such a solitary pursuit. It's so easy to be like in your studio and feel like you're not progressing, or feel like you're not making, or feel blah, blah, blah. And then it's like, oh, it's really hard to network, but it's so important. It's so important to like get out there and meet other artists and talk. And like things like this to get a shared experience with people, so you don't feel so isolated on your own.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that was kind of some of the reasons of this. I would say I'm a sociable introvert. I would say. So once I'm around people, it's great. But if you put me in a room and you're like, this is a networking event, I'm just like, oh my God, I can't do this.
Yeah.
So it's like, so I think for artists to do any kind of courses and stuff like that is amazing, like in terms of meeting.
Do you know what I've been doing as well over the quarantine is the VAI like help desks and the
cafes and stuff. Have you done those? What was your experience?
Oh, sorry, you kind of broke up there.
Can you hear me now, Niamh?
I can hear you now. Yeah, it's kind of breaking up, but I can hear you.
Oh, okay. What was your experience with those? Because I've seen
I really liked them. Yeah, I thought it was great, especially to connect with people who aren't in Dublin. I think I'm way too like Dublin centric, like it's really nice to do the online stuff to be able to connect with artists who are in different parts of the country, So like while there's obviously a difference of like seeing these things in real life, meeting the people in real life, I think it's a very good, like I hope they continue after everything. To doing them like at least once a month or something for you to be able to connect with people all over the country. I really liked them, and I found I found them. I think I found them validating for myself as well. Yeah. Even like though I didn't like talk on any of them or anything like that, but like being able to be like log on and be like, oh no, I'm in a webinar. Sorry. Because everybody's been working from home, so it's like, oh no, I can't talk to you. I enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant! That's really good to hear, because I have kind of thought, I should get on and maybe log into some of them subscribe for one or two of them. So that's really good to hear.
I would definitely recommend.
I will. Okay. Yeah. Brilliant. So tell us, what's next for you, Niamh? What are your plans? Do you have anything in the pipelines that you're working on that you're obviously your sculptural piece that you're working on?
I have my sculpture, and then I have that large scale painting. And like I was talking to my mom is like my biggest cheerleader, I have to say. I was talking to her the other day, and she was like, "Niamh, just make it. Like, just paint the painting. Like, what are you waiting for? Like, you've had it." Because she took the photo for me. So I'm jumping, and I have a lace tablecloth, and like I threw it up in the air and I jumped into it, kind of. So it's actually really, like, I have to say, I think the composition of it and stuff is beautiful. As my mom is super creative, so like she's so excited by it because she was like involved in the process of this painting as well.
I love it.
So I think that, like, right now, again, incredibly supportive mom. I had to give up my studio recently, like just before Corona, but it would have kind of been in my mind just because like I was struggling to be able to afford it. Like I was struggling to be able to save any money, and like it was giving me a little bit more of like restrictions on what materials I could buy and things like this. So then, because I do have very expensive taste in my materials, I always
it's another pressure though, isn't it? Like the whole.
It is. Like I talk about wanting to make objects, but I want to make them in silver. It's just with my background, and I really enjoy working with metal. I enjoy the precision of it and all this. So yeah, I gave up my studio, and then my mom had a garage in Harold's Cross, so I'm in the process of converting that into my new studio. So I'm really excited. Yeah, I'm really, really excited. It's beautiful. It's large. It's in a really good area. I'll be able to, the rent is much cheaper. More money on the period. So I'm really excited to try and get into like a period of experimentation and trying to like push my practice in different ways.
Yeah.
At the same time as really looking forward to doing that big painting. I want to try and be more, I feel like my output isn't as high as my input. I feel like I work, I think I said earlier, like I work hard, not smart. And I want to try and work smart.
Yeah. It's that thing of being busy, but not necessarily being productive.
Exactly.
Busy, but actually not really doing the right thing.
Not really make it that much. Yeah. And always like spending so long thinking about stuff, and it's like, just do the painting. If it's not good, doesn't matter. Like,
exactly.
And that kind of ties into the trying to get a bit of more freedom with materials, because like I prepped in the beginning of quarantine a really large painting, and it was like more of the style of the paintings I was doing last year, which were kind of like these line drawings. And it's like a big like 6-foot thing. I spray painted the back, I used the glue. So like by the time you buy the spray paint, the board, the glue, the paper, the time it took to get all of that, and then I effed the painting up. And it just like sat there staring at me like, and I was like, when I looked at it, all I could see was the wasted materials, and I need to get out of that frame of mind. I need to just look at it as learning. It's not wasted materials, it's learned. I learned with it.
Yeah, exactly. That was a growth. That was a time of growth.
Exactly.
A challenge, time of growth. Your other big painting, you need to do that for your mom, I think.
I do, yeah. I'm really excited. And like I have the poem for it pretty much written, and I want to make some objects with it. So I think I'm just going to go ahead and just do it.
Yeah,
she'll be delighted. I'll be like, here's an extra painting. You can put it in your house.
Contact you in a few months. Or just even do it with her in mind, just be like,
yeah, exactly.
She might, maybe she does want an 8-foot painting of you, but
oh my God, I'm super, super lucky like that. I have really, really supportive parents,
Isn't that brilliant?
It was never like, I talk to other people in, like sometimes in art college, and they were like, oh, my parents didn't want me to come. I was like, that's just so foreign to me, So I'm really, really lucky in that regard, that my parents have never been like, oh, you're just going to sit in your studio for 12 hours,
Do what? Look, if we didn't have creatives in the world, can you imagine what the world would be like? It would just be so
I know.
dull. We would have nothing around us. We wouldn't have a door, wouldn't have a handle, we wouldn't have a computer, there would be nothing,
Exactly.
Everywhere. Listen, Niamh, thanks a million for coming on and chatting. It's been such a joy to chat to you. And
it was great. I really enjoyed it myself.
It's been really nice. I wonder, are Real Red going to be doing anymore in the future?
I hope so. Yeah, I think it's like tough days for everyone trying to figure out like when things are going to open, how they're going to open. Because like even the way I say, like I'm doing my residency next month, I'm going down to Creative Spark today, like to have a look around. But in 3 weeks, we don't know. Maybe I won't be able to go again.
Yeah.
So I think everyone's just like baby steps, positive baby steps.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, well, listen, I hope the residency goes really well, and it's
Thank
a really
you, Paula.
amazing
Thanks so
time.
much for having me on. It was really great.
Oh, well, thanks for agreeing to come on. I'm always like, oh God, are people going to say yes or not? So
no, they've been great. I've listened to some of them. I haven't listened to them all because I listened to some, and then when you asked me to come on, I said, okay, because my nerves, I was like, I'm not going to listen to any more until like afterwards. So I can't wait now to go back and finish them.
Yeah. Brilliant. Thanks a million, Niamh. And
it was lovely to chat to you.
Just to finish, where can people find you? Where are the best places to people find you?
So I have a website, niamhhannaford.com, and then my Instagram is Niamh_Hannaford.
Yeah. Brilliant. Yeah. Fantastic. Thanks a million, Niamh, and all the best with everything over this next while, and look forward to seeing that big, large painting.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Paula.
Okay, see you, Niamh. Thank you.
Bye.